Fashion mogul Kimora Lee Simmons has legally changed her name to Kimora Lee, dropping Simmons to mark a personal and professional reset centered on clarity and ownership. Officially announced in February 2026, the move streamlines her brand, reclaims her identity, and distances her from legal disputes. I bet.
There it is.
Including those surrounding her ex-husband, Russell Simmons.
There it go.
You recently dropped your last name, Simmons.
People were like, oh, she dropped it now that she doesn't need it. Honey, I haven't been needing it for a while.
She gave what is now, today, based on the stock, $800 million to the government, illegally. And now I'm fighting to get my half of it back.
Do you have any regret?
Oh, but you can't say like, oh, I wish I didn't have these partners. I wish I didn't have that man. I wish I could have chose a different baby daddy. Everybody's always like, well, if she didn't have that.
Now she regrets. She probably in the Epstein files too.
Now she regrets. Stop playing.
And she wouldn't have had the rest. And that's fair to say.
You'd have been upstairs in a Chinese restaurant saying that shit.
To prepare to give somebody a massage.
Big ass hands.
What's up, guys?
Hey, Reba.
River, and I'm back again with another video. Now, recently, Kimora Lee, formerly known as Kimora Lee Simmons, sat down on a podcast in which she spoke about a plethora of things. They talked about business. They talked about, obviously her company, Baby Phat, as well as, a lot of other things.
It's like, 1 second, you built a business, you sold a business, you bought the business back.
Now, clips of this interview have been going viral because, basically Kimora Lee has made it known, that she is no longer going by Kimora Lee Simmons, that she, basically has recently decided to,
Kimora Lee regular,
quote unquote, drop the name.
We're in a very unique time for you. And I know that you recently dropped your last name, Simmons.
She went as far as to even talk about the fact that she not only dropped the name Simmons, but she also dropped the name Leissner, which is the last name of her most recent ex-husband.
So she was Simmons Leissner?
I don't know. It probably was hyphenated. But then she was married to the African dude too.
She was never
his last name. She was still just Kimora Lee Simmons the whole time she was married.
Kimora Lee Simmons Wexler. She was collecting last names, baby.
How you collect last?
That's how you get them, like stripes on a goddamn soldier's uniform. She's the general of dicks.
Now, this conversation is surfacing pretty much just a couple minutes right off the cuff of, the drama that she had, going back and forth when she was doing interviews in regards to the, revivement of her show, Life in the Fab Lane. Basically,
somebody said her husband is a scammer. He probably changed his name to Simmons too.
Son, stop.
She had done interviews talking about how she is like, a single mom, how the dads weren't present and all of that.
And you're doing this all on your own, like the fathers of the children are not involved?
It used to be a little different. They're not involved. I'm alone. Not really even around. And they're welcome to be around, just to clarify for the record. They're welcome to be around on their, at their will and leisure. My kids are all big enough and old enough to have their own relationships and do their own things. So it's not about me.
So what are you talking about?
She talking about beating the feds. That's what she talking about. She dropping her last name because it's turmoil at foot. It's trouble coming. The storm is coming. She's like, man, let me get away from Russell.
Obviously, that sparked some kind of outrage from her, most known relationship with business mogul Russell Simmons, in which, he kind of came forth with receipts and talking about how he was always there and, just a whole bunch of things that came up from that situation. Now, it's really interesting because if you guys remember in regards to that situation, there was a lot of things that were said from the likes of Kamora during that beef, right? She brought up allegations that he had that were pending. She kind of like was attacking his character for the most part, right? And during that time, it was a very heavy situation, right? And I remember when I did the commentary in regards to that situation, I was like, the main reason why we know Kimora Lee the way in which we know her now is off of, the imprint that Russell Simmons had, right? He brought her to the forefront.
Russell is definitely one of my mentors. I learned so much from him. He's like a genius.
And he, gave her Baby Phat and all of those things. And so it was very interesting.
Which was a spinoff of Phat Farm. Phat Farm was big back in the day. Baby Phat was just the female version of that, and he gave that, which at the time was his wife. That was good money. That was a good business deal.
Why would she regret that? She didn't want that.
They made hundreds of millions of dollars.
She regrets that.
Oh,
she wanted to be a regular Chinese lady, and then here comes
son, we don't know if she
comes him messing up her Chineseness
and giving her all this money and
during
fame.
this interview, she actually addressed a lot of, how she got her start and her, upbringing and her beginning in business. So I wanted to bring it to you guys so we can further the conversation. And of course, I'm going to give you guys my thoughts, my feelings, and my opinion on this entire situation.
Do you have any regrets?
Oh my gosh, I have tons of regrets. I wish I hadn't have gotten into bed with, literally, but like with all these men.
I have to be completely honest.
I hope she wouldn't wear that wooden jacket in there. That shit ugly as fuck.
It's not a wooden it's like a curtain.
But like with all these men.
I have to be completely honest with you guys, as I always am, right? Kimora Lee in the early 2000s was an absolute icon. Okay, she still is, right? She still is an icon.
She was doing her thing off the strength of Russell.
As a woman, for front loading the or being the face of Baby Phat and like what it meant for hip hop and in the urban world and for the culture, right?
For lady wear.
I'm not taking anything that she has done
Russell.
or contributed in business away from her at all, right? I would never do that.
Right, she got real long neck. You know what I'm saying? And
Leave her alone,
you know what you can do with a long neck.
So stop.
But
son.
I think it's always so interesting how the regrets come when you're no longer able to gain anything from the positions or the relationships or the proximity that you had to these people who put you in position to win.
Wished it was a different environment that I could like speak up or that I could kind of have my own, have my own way or do things myself. I did that, but it was like a fight and it was like a big thing. And it was like at the risk and expense of you being a bitch or you being like someone scared of you.
A lot of women become the men that they were in relationships with, right? And so the reason why they're unable to, garner positive results in the relationship department after being in relationship with such, movers and shakers, powerful men is because instead of being the balance to these men, they become these men. Right? And so the reason why when two conversations can be happening and one from a man and one from a woman and a woman is seen to be, called out of her name or kind of like edgy or whatever is because she is no longer leaning to her natural nature to get things done. She's leaning into the male nature, the man's nature to get things done. And so that's why it doesn't necessarily come across the same exact way.
You being...
Plus, nobody don't need that. Nobody don't want that. It's not hot.
What, her being a boss?
Yeah. Nobody want to be in a fucking dick measuring contest with you, lady.
Hey, man. Somebody do. She's been married a couple of times after Russell Simmons.
Right, flexing, showing up with Russell money.
Yeah.
And now now people over the Chinese long neck, she only getting scammers.
Son, leave her alone.
Her latest husband was a scammer.
We don't know it.
Allegedly, Russell said she took the money that was theirs, invested in the company, and bailed out her scammer husband because this dude owed a bunch of money.
God damn.
Allegedly.
And now she trying to drop the last name.
Right, to get away with Russell. Now he in problems because he in trouble.
Right.
No, hold on.
Hold on. Stand firm.
You know what I'm saying? You been Lee Simmons. Continue to be Lee Simmons.
Right.
All these things that like no one ever said about my partners, my ex-husbands, of which I have 3.
Because they men.
No one ever said that about them.
These are fields that men were obviously the forefront of, that they were, leading in the decision making.
It was a very man-centric kind of man focus. There wasn't a woman speaking out or speaking up or stepping out or getting out. There was none of that. And then that led into like obviously other aspects.
And it's just so interesting because even further into the interview, she talked about the fact that all of her, business ideas, all of her, information that she got was only from the men that she surrounded herself with, not from the women.
A lot of the things I've learned in my life and lessons that I've learned in my life, I've learned from very great people who were most of the time men. A lot of the times they were women, but that came later. In the beginning, they were men.
Now, ironically, she also talks about the fact that, in regards to her regrets, she also talks about the fact that maybe, in hindsight, she would have chose a different ex or a different baby daddy or had a different kind of relationships that she doesn't want to necessarily say are regrets, but in hindsight she would have chosen differently.
But you can't say like, oh, I wish I didn't have these partners. I wish I didn't have that man. I wish I could have chose a different baby daddy or whatever is man focused. You know what I mean? You don't always get it that way, but you think of it in a sense like could it have been different?
Now, I got to say this right now. Okay. She has, 3 men that she had relationships with and had children with, right? She had Russell Simmons, she had actor Jaimin Hansu, and she also had her last ex-husband.
That's the dude you said is allegedly.
Yeah.
Tim Leissner, who I believe is in prison right now, right?
A U.S. judge has sentenced former Goldman Sachs banker Tim Leissner to 2 years in prison for his role in the 1MDB scandal after prosecutors argued for leniency due to his cooperation.
I know for a
He
fact
kept some of that money.
He spent all of Russell Simmons' money. This lady had Russell Simmons when Russell Simmons was Russell Simmons.
It big.
When he was the man. Like, I'm sure he still got
founder of Def Jam.
But back then,
one of the co-founders, yes, of Def Jam.
Before y'all hear about Jay-Z billionaire and all that stuff. Before all that, Russell Simmons
was the man.
The man. She couldn't have picked a higher caliber of guy in hip hop.
No doubt.
I mean, she Chinese, for God's sake. It wasn't even that many Chinese people around to be, you know what I'm saying?
Son, she was a model, son.
Right.
He chose her.
Yeah, but that's when exotics first came out. Juice wasn't.
All right, I'm gonna leave it alone. It's not about being.
All the husbands or baby daddies that she's talking about, there's no way in the world that she can be talking about the Russell Simmons.
Right.
Okay. That could not be a possibility. Even though she dropped the name as she stated. And, even when she said that, right, that she dropped the name and not only the Simmons name, but also the Leicester name.
And I know that you recently
Nobody care about that Wessler name. I also dropped Wessler. What? Who's
Who?
What?
He's nobody.
What are you talking about?
He's
Nobody ever called you Kimora Lee Simmons? What the hell are you talking about?
Simmons, which
Simmons
kind of
and Leissner.
Wasn't nobody walking around calling Kamora Lee Leicner?
Exactly. Exactly.
We ain't never heard of that. If y'all heard of that, you can
Put
let
it
me
in
know
the
in the comment
comments.
section. But I ain't never heard nobody consider Kamora Lee Leicner. Okay, Kamora has always
And
been
the Leissner.
Kamora Lee Simmons. Has always been, using that last name to her best benefit. But she also
Right. Don't leave Russell now. Don't act like you ain't know what he was doing.
But son, he was
doing the same thing to you.
That ain't nothing. What Shaq ex-wife, Shawnee O'Neal? She's always gonna be known as Shawnee O'Neal. She what's her last name? Jackson? Shawnee Jackson? She gonna always go.
Shaq and all
Yeah, and all that. It ain't got benefit, gay to man babies and all that.
Did you quit him or not?
talked about, the beginning of her relationships with Russell Simmons and how it ended up transferring her, or positioning her into a place that she was able to obtain so many other businesses after that.
The way that I started was under Phat Farm. And that's a key point because everybody's always like, well, if she didn't have that, then she wouldn't have had the rest. And that's fair to say.
We know that. We know that that's fair to say. Hence why when you are going back and forth with him on social media, when you're trying to call him out, when you're trying to call him deadbeat, when you are, trying to basically discredit all that he has done for you, you're now having to correct that in this interview because you knew that you was wrong for that.
Right.
If you don't raise my budget, I'm going to get a sugar daddy.
Your budget's fine.
That's the daughter.
Yeah, that's the daughter that had that old man.
The old man kissing her in the mouth. With
all
the Speedos on.
With the Speedos.
Yeah, we saw that.
Ugh.
We had to put that up, son. We gonna put that up.
You know her mama raised her for that.
Yeah.
She claims she didn't iron improve habit and mama. She come on, man.
Well, she's
the family playbook.
Right. We see it. She speaks on it right here.
That is non-existent. No.
So no up and allowance?
I do the allowance.
No matter what it is, okay? And this is just my personal opinion. But no matter what it is, I don't think that Kimora Lee should ever find herself in a place to talk negatively about Russell Simmons because of the fact of how well he positioned her for the rest of her life.
The rest of her life.
Even though his name might be, attached to certain things that he is all caught up in or whatever, and now he lives out the country, whatever it is, I think that one of the people who should never speak negatively about that man or try to draw negative attention to him is the likes of Kimora.
It's goddamn Kimora Lee.
Respect, Reva.
As you like to be called.
Right. Kimora Lee Simmons.
No, she's just Kimora Lee now.
Nah.
Respect her Lee.
Nah.
Miss Lee.
Right.
Lee Simmons.
Is it with an I or the E's? Which one is it?
I think it's I, man. Kimora Lee.
No, she Kimora Lee with the she
L-E-E.
She like Bruce, not like Jet.
Like Jet Lee.
Kimora Lee. It should have never happened. Because it's so funny. She said that she dropped the name because she no longer needs it. And then she says, I no longer, I didn't need it a long time ago.
People were like, she dropped it now that she doesn't need it. Honey, I haven't been needing it for a while.
Well,
but that's
Yeah, she needed it since Russell set her up. Once she was set up, then she didn't need it.
Well, I know that.
But the fact remains is that at some point you know that you needed that last name.
Hell yeah.
Whether it be for business deals, whether that be so that you get certain type of treatment.
Otherwise, why you got it?
It needs to be, for a fact that
Her second husband, what's his name? The African brother?
Unduchu.
She never claimed his name. The whole time she was married to him, her name was Kimora Lee Simmons. And she married another man.
Had babies with him and all
Had
that.
babies with him and all that. So man,
First of all, I'd have been a little spicy about that.
Right, like, look, man, right, with this dude.
You got the Unduju. Whatever his name is.
Last name
got
and
like
that.
B's and J's and K's.
Come on, man. Leave it alone, man. We like brother, man. I'ma stop.
Yeah, give we free. Give us free.
husband was like a bigger than life force at the time, right? In his own right, in terms of like music and everything that they were doing.
Yeah.
The godfather of hip hop.
ironically the conversation got brought up again within this interview.
Because you're nobody without
ended
Russell.
up having a different angle of the same conversation that she's been having lately about him, and basically trying to say like, oh, well, I was grown.
We're talking about Russell at this
Yes, my first husband. I met him when I was 16. We were off and on for some years. That's way too young now in hindsight, but you couldn't tell me that.
I'm glad
then.
you said it.
Yeah, it's way too
Oh,
young.
threw him
But I thought
out
it was
there.
She threw him out there, son.
Threw him out there.
In hindsight,
We thought it. We was thinking it, but we ain't know it.
he's original R. Kelly.
The original.
No, he not. Don't do that. Don't do that to Russ.
Listen all on us.
He wants a listening on her.
So you a giant Chinese. I never
We
seen
gonna
a
do some
giant
things.
Chinese.
We gonna go far.
We gonna go far. You could be a giant Chinese.
Chill, man. Leave Russ alone, man. He over in Bali chilling, man.
It's a lot of giant Chinese in Bali. They look like nigga Chinese. They look like her already. She probably Bali. Is she a Bali?
No, man.
Shout out to the Balis.
And I thought, because it's the same girl who's living on her own. When I met him, I was already living in Paris. And I came to New York.
Now, I'm not here to debate whether that's too young or not too young. I don't know the age of that Russell Simmons was when the two of them met. But I can say again, it goes back.
He was old.
He was grooming her though. He probably was grooming her.
Russell Simmons was old as long as we knew about
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Russell Simmons was old back in the day.
Yeah, he was always old.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, Run DMC, that's Run's older brother.
Right.
So,
right.
So,
whatever she talk about, he was definitely grown. He was like 30 or 40 or some shit.
Yeah, don't say that.
He was. That nigga was never young. He was in his mid-late 20s in the 80s.
Yes.
He linked up with her in the 90s.
Man,
Late 90s.
All right, man, leave it alone, man.
I'm just saying. Shout out to Russell, I guess.
Right? It goes back to the proximity.
Not really. Relax.
She was living a mature, pretty much adult life in her teen years. She was living on her own in a different country, working, right? So it wasn't the same as, living with her parents and being under their regime. And it was a very different space and was a very different time. What I think is so interesting is that now she's like, oh, well, nobody couldn't tell me nothing at that age because I thought I was grown because I was doing my own thing. I had my own house. I was living, as an adult.
You couldn't tell me that.
Glad
then.
you said it.
Yeah, it's way too young.
Yeah.
But I thought I was grown. And I thought, because it's the same girl who's living on her own. When I met him, I was already living in Paris. And I came to New York.
She's saying that now.
Living that model
but
lifestyle.
in terms of arguing with him and
Basically, she just said he wasn't the first one to
Right. No, she's not saying that. What she's saying is she was up and coming. She was an up and coming model. She wasn't living in the States. She was living in Paris. And
she was underage.
Yes. And she was living her best life.
and trying to combat him on the internet, she took the stance of being a victim of the situation. And I think that we need to talk about that because which one is it? Were you the victim in the situation and you didn't know any better and you were taken advantage of? Or is that the story that you tell when it fits the certain narrative that you want it to fit? Because
I mean, that's always the case.
Important
Always.
conversation to have.
We're talking about Russell. Yes, my first husband. I met him when I was 16. We were off and on for some years. That's way too young now in hindsight, but
Of course we know, okay? You hit 25, that frontal lobe develop, okay? And we all look back and say, oh gosh, if I would have known then what I know now, I shouldn't have done this, I shouldn't have done that. But it's just so interesting that, you know, in those positions, she stayed married to him for a long time, right? She had children with him. She created businesses after that. Even
You making them cheap ass jackets they got Foreman Mills with the cat on the back.
It's not a cheap ass jacket, man. Baby fat was the thing back in the day with the little velour suits that the sisters was wearing.
Yeah, you can pull one string that whole she be butt ass naked.
after the relationship didn't work out, she still stayed in close proximity with him.
Again, I have 5 kids, so I've always been like,
she got 5.
You know, an open book.
Yeah, she got 3 last names. How many kids? I mean, goddamn. That's pretty even.
I didn't know she had. I thought she had like 2 or 3.
She really loves somebody.
Kids consider. Let me turn to the light. Consider Russell to be, considered him to be at one point in time like an uncle. We were all very close.
It wasn't until the business venture that her and her new
Russ let her go. He freed her, but still hung around. Because I remember that period. Mm-hmm. Everything was chill. He did everything he wanted to her.
Put a couple of babies in her. Hey, it's what
they
it is.
Good. I remember for a minute, everything was chill. She was remarried. Russ would come through. He just, I just can't see the kids. I ain't, how y'all doing?
Yeah.
How you doing, Unjuku? He was cool with Unjuku. He's like, man, get your Unjuku. Because he had another one. He was
a younger one, a newer version of that.
So it was like, everything was cool. But let me tell you on top of the business though, shorty. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you don't mind. And so, what's the other nigga name? Wexler, whatever.
Yeah.
Messed up everything.
Ex-husband had in conjunction with Russell Simmons went sour, that all of a sudden he is not a good guy. She has all these stories that she could tell.
She gave what is now today, based on the stock, $800 million to the government illegally. And now I'm fighting to get my half of it back, in support of Tim.
I gotta stay in Bali.
A convicted criminal. His bail was my stock.
You bailed him out with his stock money?
Yeah. That they was in the business together with.
Damn.
Allegedly. We don't know. This is what Russ was saying. We can't trust him.
It's all new to us, man.
He in the jungle. You can't trust a nigga in the jungle.
Not in the jungle, sonny. Right.
Two things can be true at the same time, right? Where you kind of didn't know, and maybe you were with somebody who was more mature, and then, you'd look back and say, I wouldn't have want that for my children, whatever it is, right? However, the positioning that a lot of these women have after, okay?
They benefited.
After they have already gotten the greatest benefit,
right.
It just blows my mind. After they have benefited, after things turned out amazing for them, after they were able to become their own moguls and create their own business.
She want to make yakimein. She see people on TikTok making that yakimein. She like,
what are you talking about? She don't want to make Chinese food, son. Stop saying that. We don't know, man. We don't. That's not right, man.
That's what she'd have been doing.
We don't know, man. She could have
done modeling.
She'd have been working in a Chinese food store.
Nah, she probably would have she'd have married somebody else.
Right.
And had another set of problems and complained about him.
Right. She very ambitious young woman at the time.
She was young and a model. This is how it ends up, ladies.
Yes.
What do you want?
You could be an OnlyFan
or another one.
You could be an OnlyFan, $5.99.
Right. Or you could have never started modeling and worked at a Chinese restaurant. There's some very pretty girls in Chinese restaurants. They got that cat beside them like this.
Son, don't put that, man.
After those situations, their own moguls and create their own businesses after those situations.
The way that I started was under Phat Farm. And that's a key point because everybody's always like, well, if she didn't have that, then she wouldn't have had the rest. And that's fair to say.
Goddamn right.
It is fair to say.
Then they are able to villainize the man who put them into position.
That's easy.
And I just think that that's an absurd thing. And that's why when people are now giving her backlash for saying like, oh, now you're taking your, now you're not using the name. Now you're dropping the name. And because you no longer need it or have any benefit from it, I think that people are very justified in having that stance.
People were like, she dropped it now that she doesn't need it. Honey, I haven't been needing it for a while.
Well,
but that's cute.
I know that.
Because though she was a model.
Notice she didn't say she never needed it.
No,
I haven't. I've drained him dry for quite some time.
Right.
I just hadn't made it to the office to file the paperwork.
Right.
That's basically it.
Right.
All of those things. And probably, would have went off to do great things, just like the likes of a Tyra Banks or Naomi Campbell or whoever, right?
That's a fair assessment.
All those other women were able to, position themselves and then create better for themselves in different ways.
Possibly.
The magnitude in which she was able to do it alongside Russell Simmons is absolutely unmatched.
I had a bit.
Plus, those women, listen, and I may have my issues or whatever with them, but say what you want. They built their stuff on their own. Tyra Banks wasn't married to nobody.
No, absolutely not.
You know what I'm saying?
No, like you said, she had that engine behind her. She had that Russell Simmons, that, like I said, that name, everything, his money, his influence, everything behind her. So she gonna blow. That's his wife.
That's different than a model who had another plan.
Right.
You know what I mean? You was the kid. You had no plan. He got you so young you don't even know what's going on.
Right.
She thought you were grown.
Right.
And that's what, and I honestly think that's probably what split him up. Because he got her so young, right? She thought the grass was greener. She got out that marriage. I'm telling you, she thought the grass was greener. She was like, I want something different. She went and got Give We Free. She wants some soul food.
He ain't on the level of no Russell Simmons.
That's not the point. She wanted she wanted to
she became
she wanted to get some
complacent.
ding. She wanted to get stressed out.
Okay, that's fine. But what I'm saying
gotta
is,
work. Russ ain't fucking stressed out.
He
How
busy.
Give We Free.
Right, he
ain't
busy.
slave fucking her.
Right.
She did some slave dick.
Yeah, son, don't say.
And the slave nigga, he just work a regular acting job. He like, I'm rich, but not like
not like that. Right. I drive a Volkswagen.
right. Take it easy, baby. Yeah. So she thought the Wexler. She's like, oh, Wexler. Yeah, he definitely got it.
Come to find out, he a scammer.
He was a scammer.
Oh, that's a facade.
Right. You should have stayed home.
Right.
Just cheated on him. So I don't know what you had to do. Get a dildo.
Chill, man.
And I had a husband. And my husband was like a bigger than life force at the time, right?
Which made you what you are.
Not only herself, but then her children, based off of being attached to his name, unmatched.
Didn't come out good.
Any kind of negative,
what about his kids?
Anger.
What about Give We Free? What about his kids? I mean,
he don't talk about his kids. She don't beef with him because he not sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars.
Right.
I just saw him on an interview talk about how he ain't make no money. He like, yo, I'm trying to work.
Right. He doing Uber.
For real.
Yeah, he doing Uber Eats.
He was out there because you gotta understand these people have a very high overhead.
Right. Oh, no doubt.
You live in a several $1 million house that you don't own outright.
Homes right.
That you don't own outright. You've been dealing with this whore for the last 10 years.
Don't call her that, son.
So you know she done racked up all kinds of stuff.
Oh, no doubt.
She wants to still run around calling herself Simmons. You gotta try to act like you was Simmons.
Or part of it.
Right. You can't act quick enough. You need one acting job running across town.
Or pay quick enough.
Right. He about to be Amistad.
Yo, I watched the joint with Jennifer Aniston. That's the sister. That's the lady from Friends
with the wide hips. She got Greek butt.
She says she pays $50,000 a month just in facial treatment, just for her face. So would you listen? Would you think Kimora Lee? Yo, if you can't keep up with that, man, $50,000 a month just in facial care and all that.
Goddamn Russell Simmons coming over your house every day.
Right, just come through when he want. He got a key.
Right.
He's like, yo, what's up?
Downstairs.
Right, he on the phone like, all right, man, what's good, man? It's like, god damn.
Come on, man. The Jugu can't keep up with this.